one other thing I think we're going to see too is the AI journey that all the businesses are on. They're going to be beyond that first or second step. They're going to be implementing. They're going to be leveraging it and learning. And it's going to be a really big learning curve. But that learning, I think, is going to help organizations and businesses become so much more efficient and effective, and hopefully more productive over the coming years.
Welcome back to Between Fires and Futures, the show where we talk to the people who are helping IT leaders lead through it all. The daily firefights, the shifting landscapes, and the pressure to deliver the future now. Today's conversation is one I've been excited about for weeks. We're digging into the biggest thing getting in the way of AI momentum, and spoiler alert, it's not the tech. Joining me are two heavyweights in the space, people who don't just talk about innovation, they make it happen inside some of the most complex environments in the country. Stephen Grosso is a veteran technology leader with deep experience helping large enterprises navigate everything from infrastructure and security to strategy and transformation. He brings a sharp eye for both the technical and political roadblocks that stall innovation, and he's all about clearing the path for progress. And Danny Jones is a seasoned client advisor with experience at companies like Dell, IBM, Rubrik, and Pure Storage. He's known for building community, driving results, and translating tech into real-world business outcomes that delight both employees and customers. Together at Advizex, they're helping organizations tackle one of the most frustrating gaps in enterprise tech, when AI pilots succeed technically, but still can't get traction across the business. We're talking about the buy-in gap. If you're an IT leader trying to move your organization forward, but feel like you're doing it alone, this episode is for you. So let's dive in. Steve, Danny, thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for bearing with me through some of the technical challenges this morning. Hopefully we're smooth sailing here on out. Let's start with what IT leaders are really feeling right now. What kind of pressure are they under to do AI, maybe without a clear roadmap?
Sure. I don't know. Maybe I'll jump in first, but really an interesting environment today, because what we're finding is every company or every executive that you talk to, they're all in a different place in their AI journey. So they're taking a look and trying to figure out, well, how do I get to point B from point A? What are the obstacles? What am I going to be faced with? And it's so important that you look at it from your own business perspective, and you don't try and do what company A or company B has done. You look at your individual business and what you need to do to move forward, and then try and identify what are the key objectives and work with the strategic team internally and externally. It's going to help you get there.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, Steve. Right? I think you said it spot on, which is don't compare. I think what you see in a lot of organizations for IT is, the board or senior leadership within the organization hear, read, talk, find something in the AI space that they want to latch onto, and they just expect that their IT team will be able to implement that. Lickety spit, no problem. We have everything we need in place to make everything good happen. I can get the shiny object without having to do the work. And that's not the way this functions. So, IT leaders really struggle with I use an analogy. Very rarely does an IT leader get the opportunity to build a house. They're already in one. And then to implement AI, especially the AI they're being asked to implement, is like trying to restructure the entire house, remodel the entire thing from the foundation up while living in it.
Right.
It's impossible. It doesn't work like that. So I think that's where people really struggle, is that AI is being asked to do something that is truly impossible, because people just don't understand what all that has to happen in that. And so it's, the shiny object without the work, it's not practical. And that's a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, it is. What's your advice to them for how to navigate that?
Oof. Smaller bites, right? So one of the things I think you'd hear this from Steve and I, if we were in an engagement with you within our organization, we get into conversations a lot with customers, and they've got big, beautiful plans for how AI can transform the business and deliver amazing results. They don't know if their data is structured to be able to do it. They don't know if they have the teams to be able to enable it. They don't have the connections between their systems, their departments. They don't have processes or procedures. If they try to bite off that big thing, they will fail inevitably. There's no way to get from where they want to be from where they are. They have to go someplace else first. And so what we propose every time is take small bites. We call them sprints, right? There's any number of small project names for it. But the idea is to actually find something, make sure that you have the data in order to achieve the outcome, and then work through that, achieve a tangible result, and then build on it. That's how you find success. If you try to eat the whole elephant in one bite, it doesn't work. It just simply doesn't work.
To tandem onto that, yes, it's taking small bites, but a lot of the time it's taking a look at, while I'm taking these small bites, what's the least risky target that I'm going to go after? Because I could take a small bite, but it could be something complex, and that complexity makes that initial opportunity to go after AI difficult. So find those small bites, find the ones that you can do with little risk to your production environment, and then find the ones also that couple with that and a quick return on investment, because that's what's going to drive ongoing success. Can I do it? How easy was it to do it? And, oh, by the way, is there a return on investment, so that you can take that to the leadership, the executive team, and say, here's what we've done, here's how we've integrated it, and here's what the return has been. And we can replicate that through multiple different silos.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure you've both seen technically successful AI pilots that just don't gain traction. So what are you seeing that is breaking down between pilot or idea even to actual deployment or production?
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we hear these results continually. Some say 80% fail, some say 90% fail. And I think it boils back to the prior, one of the things is the prior statements, find those small little areas to target and go after those. And there's really three pieces, that being one. The other is the data that's used in these pilots or these training initial trials is typically a small segment of data. And a lot of companies just think, oh, they can go from that small segment of data and do the trial and jump into the enterprise environment where your data may not be clean. In other words, it may not have been gone through, and you might have bad data, because bad data in, as we all know, bad data comes out. So it's understanding the data. It's understanding how you're going to use that data, whether it's in production, if is it the right data, and then really taking a look at what the programs are. Is it you doing the line of business has a specific objective? Are you going down the right objective? You've got to be able to show some small success and then get buy-in across the lines of business, because without the line of business engagement, we've seen that the failure rate is significantly higher.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we hear that all the time, right? That definitely hits a pain point, because we've heard this from so many teams that there's interest in AI, even budget for pilots, but it fizzles before it hits production. And it's not necessarily that the tech didn't work. It's because the right people weren't brought in early enough to care.
Well, in some cases, what they build is so isolated in the pilot because they didn't do any of the foundational work so that it can go anyplace else. So they built a small silo, right? And it's great. Like Steve was saying, for the small subset of the data that you did it for, it's perfect. But if you need to grow it, now you have to go build something else, and to get that funding for that next step it can be really difficult. You want to build something that you can build on. And sometimes that means slowing down in order to be able, slow down to go fast.
Yeah.
Make sure you get the foundation and that it's achievable so that you can continue to build off of that and you don't have to go back and rebuild it every time.
So what other strategies have you seen that help bridge that pilot to production gap?
Interestingly enough, when the clients engage with the partners, because whenever you're doing an AI engagement, it's typically there's multiple partners and multiple sources that are involved in that. It's so important that everybody is aligned, that all of the resources that you bring to the table have a common objective and a plan to do that. So you have to really build out the strategy of how I'm going to go about it. What's the end result look like? Where am I at today? And what are the steps I need to do to get there? And then you can start implementing those processes and those tasks to drive towards that success. And if you don't have everybody on board with the same, marching to the same tune, it makes it very, very difficult. So that would be one of the takeaways I'd say is be on board. Everybody needs to be following the same line.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you share a story where an AI initiative either stalled or succeeded, and what made the difference?
Yeah, I'll jump on that one. Actually, it was a really interesting story. And funny, we started from the right place even. So it was a water utility, and we got engaged with them, and the conversation was really simple. We wanted to help identify a number of things. They came to us with a whole laundry list of AI things. We pared that down, and honestly, we started with a data assessment, because we wanted to validate that we had the data in order to be able to prove out. And what we were looking for was, could we accurately report or identify water loss, like water going to ground after it had been produced. And so we went through that process, and we did the data assessment, proved out more than we thought we would have been able to, that we had the ability, by combining OT and IT data and CRM data, that we can actually identify for them within 5 minutes water loss, versus them doing it the way they do it today, which is manually, right? Or somebody calling, which is even more manual. And so we went through that entire process, and we were able to actually identify water loss via data. Where we struggled is we forgot to include the OT team other than their data from the get-go, and they shot it. They said no. So we had to go back to the drawing board and re-engage with them to start working through that. Like, we just solved water loss. This is not insignificant, but they didn't want other parts of the organization to have access to that information yet. So we did all the right things, but we did them without all the right people in the room. And so I think it's, that mix and match, as we talked about already, you got to make sure everybody's on board, to Steve's point, and you need to make sure that you start from the right place in order to be able to build on top of it. So yeah, that was one of those that, it was amazing. And then unfortunately just kind of stung at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Would think that's a pretty big sting. Well,
yeah, it's moving along now, but it took a little longer than it should have.
Right. Well, so where are you seeing the most traction today in getting like cross-functional buy-in for AI? What's actually working?
So what I've found is, as the clients are becoming more and more engaged in AI, and they're getting a little smarter in where they want to go and what they want to uncover, what's happening is they're doing more research to say, okay, if I want to do X, I need to do the following steps. If I want to go down a different path, I do something different. And then what's happening is they're starting to bring in the partners. Could be any solution provider, value-added reseller, could be any of the large OEMs, but they're looking at it from a perspective of, I have an idea of where I want to go, but help me get there. So by bringing in the expertise in the early stages, it absolutely helps move the projects along and absolutely increases the success rate. And I think that one of the biggest suggestions I have when I'm talking with different customers and clients is get the parties together. It's a team that's going to make this work. And it's not only the external partners, but it's your internal partners. Get the internal partners gathered, get together, sit around the table and figure it out. And it shortens the process. It gives you a much more succinct idea of where you want to go with that process. And then it helps you achieve your end results in an expedited fashion, which is the biggest thing. How do I get to point B as quick as I can and as risk-free and as efficiently? So that's one of the big things that I'm seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
A couple of things that I've seen at organizations that seem to be further along the journey than others. One is, much like IT inside of larger organizations, where they've adopted really a PMO process, right? So they actually have a data scientist sitting within the business unit, participating, or at least a sponsor sitting within that. Mm-hmm. And then they have a peer sitting inside of the IT organization, much like we did within larger organizations within IT, just to help make sure that we were doing the right things for those organizations. That model seems to be working quite well for organizations to do that, especially larger ones that have that kind of structure in place already. That works really, really well. But the other thing that works, and it's funny, lessons learned, right? If you don't learn from history, you're bound to repeat it. The same thing that had to happen in the security space is really adaptable to the AI strategy, because ultimately, until you got security to the board, and got into the leadership room, security was siloed, and it by definition was bound to fail. Once you get it to that point where everybody is talking about it together, then there's buy-in at the top, and there's buy-in below, and it makes getting that cross-functional buy-in easier for everybody included. And it takes IT off of the branch of being out there alone trying to implement IT, and AI into an organization.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's true of all tech initiatives, right? Just like building alliances outside of the IT department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Important. Yeah. It's important.
And I think a couple onto that too, is being able to work an organization from the top down to the bottom up. Because what happens is it ultimately meets in the middle, and then it determines where it's going to go. And if you can, from the IT perspective, understand how the end users are being impacted and how the C-suite is looking to address things, then you get the perspective to deliver the right messaging and get the buy-in. So it's kind of working top down, bottom up as well.
Yeah. That's a great takeaway. What do IT leaders need to say or stop saying to help the rest of the business lean in instead of tuning out?
Didn't let you run with that one first, and I'll jump in.
Yeah, look, I think the IT leaders, right? And I anytime I'm in front of a large group of IT teams, I remind them of this, right? For 50 years, we have done nothing but provide efficiency for organizations. And the expectation is that we'll continue to do that at the same rapid rate that we've been able to do it over all these years. IT leaders need to be clear with the organization that this, unlike cloud where it was an option, more like the internet where it's not an option, it's coming whether you like it or not. We need to do some structured work in order to be prepared to drive real value out of AI versus building pinpoint solutions that add to other things we need to, go support. We need to slow down to speed up. We need to make sure we get the data in place and get it right so that we can build valuable structure around our AI practice and our rollout. And I don't know that enough of them are saying it so that it's heard both in and out of their organization, because it is the fundamental. If, Steve said it, garbage in, garbage out, or you're building pinpoint solutions that just become other monolithic things you have to support, and they don't yield results across the organization, and they're not expandable. So it's really important for IT leaders to share that. And that's a hard message, right? I get on calls with customers all the time. I'm like, I love the fact that you want this shiny object, but you're going to hate me now because I'm about ready to tear down your world and tell you we got to start from the data. We need to go do the basic work in order to build up. I think IT leaders need to make sure they walk through that conversation with leadership, with their peers, and stay on that. I'll get you there, and I'll get you there faster, but you got to lean in with me to help me get this structure set up correctly.
Yeah, I think also that the perception needs to change, because as we know, the past how many decades, IT is always looked at as a cost center.
Yeah.
AI, I think, has the potential to transform AI from the IT organization from a cost center into the potential to help drive revenue within the company. AI has the capability, and by working if the IT leaders are working across the table, it gives them an opportunity to say, if we bring in these solutions to address what your needs are, we can help drive the revenue or top line, bottom line, whatever the case may be. It's a strong opportunity to deliver that message.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think sometimes the most powerful thing an IT leader can do isn't technical. It's relational. Sitting in on COO's meeting. It's asking sales where their bottlenecks are, right? That's where they can make an impact. I am really actually kind of surprised that even today, IT is seen as a cost center because, we were serving IT leaders during COVID, during lockdown, and the whole world was shutting down, and they had to pivot 30,000 employees to work from home. So I thought that time would have really solidified, they were the integral driver of business continuity, but seems like we're a little bit back to business as usual.
There's no question. IT is completely integral into the operation of any organization. It's a matter of getting engaged across the table, though. You do that, and the success rate just flies.
Yeah. Again, that's how they earn a seat at the strategy table and build alliances all across the organization, which is critical.
Yeah. Good leaders make that a priority, right? And it could be, it's almost two roles at this point in time, because there is very much the technical, capabilities within the organization, but IT leaders still have a responsibility to be engaged from a business side. And so, there's the political side of the job and then the technical side of the job. Maybe sometimes I've seen a number of organizations where they've actually split the role, right? And the CIO has somebody reports directly to them that is very strong, technically engaged in the day-to-day understanding how the business works. And the CIO spends all of their time really moving across the business lines and with leadership to make sure that they're the right advocate for their team to show the value that they bring to the organization. It's not different for this. It's really not.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes total sense. So if you could reframe just one belief for IT teams or even line of business teams around AI adoption, what would it be?
I think we just kind of said it, didn't we?
Yeah.
You can't stay isolated. I think it's really important for IT teams to get out in front of that right now, because the expectation is that because this has a computer involved and there's software, right? That it's IT's problem.
Right.
The business has a lot of expectations, and they already have a preconceived notion of what they're going to get. If you're not out there in front of them, telling them what it's going to take in order to deliver that, the expectation is going to be impossible for you to ever meet. So you need to be out, be an advocate for your team, be in front of it, and make sure that you're setting expectations of what's required to get from here to there clearly with your peers.
Do you see other beliefs that keep teams stuck beyond what we've talked about?
Within AI adoption, I think, there's a couple of things. One is that everybody has the same definition for what AI is. Right. That's a really critical one, right? In a lot of cases, just halfway decent business practices and leveraging data a little bit differently. It's not really AI we're talking about, but it's almost seen as AI within the organization. You don't have to necessarily build an agentic, model or train data, or you don't have to necessarily do that to yield real business results. For IT leaders, it's actually a good time that people really want to see something come. And it may have been something that you couldn't have sold to them before because they just kind of had their head in the sand from a business perspective. But now they're looking for AI, they're looking for a shiny object. You might be able to put those things together for them quite quickly. And it's, might just be a SQL query that yields a result. But if they perceive it as value and they perceive it as AI, who cares? Call it what you got to call it. Get the business result, get the win, and then you can build on from there.
Yeah, I think piggybacking that too, AI doesn't have to be difficult.
Right.
It has to be structured, and it has to be deliberate. And the most important thing is sharing that AI is a journey. It's not something you're jumping in today, you're doing something and you're running away because you fixed a problem. It's an ongoing journey. And as long as you have the mindset that, okay, we're going to continue to evolve and grow, just like any of the other technologies that have been, earth-changing over the past decades. You come in, you get your feet wet, and you just continue to expand and grow with it. So follow the journey. Don't just jump in for the quick fix and run away.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be a journey because AI is evolving so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much going on in the space, right? And one of the things I think is really challenging for everybody, not just for IT leaders, but it happens. Marketing teams are really quick on this stuff, right? So everybody's got AI in their product now. And so to some degree, there's kind of that checkbox, hey, we're using AI. But again, for true adoption, you kind of get out of the mindset that I have to achieve the biggest, best result. If I can make it simple and achieve results, exactly as Steve has said a couple of times now, that will set the foundation and allow you to expand further and further and further. It's quick wins, find the easy stuff if it makes sense. If there's something that is more complex, but it makes a lot of value, go ahead and get after that. But in a lot of cases, something as simple as, self-help with AI, a little bit of advanced search, some document creation, that can be 60% of the load for an organization and drive that much efficiency and return time and value.
Yeah.
That's not complex stuff, right? This is all pretty easy things to get done. I mean, we have a tool in that space, right? There's other tools out there that do that. It's simple and easy. That can be a great win. Don't overcomplicate it. I think Steve said that a couple of times. It's simple and you can take advantage of what you can and then build on from there.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. What are some of the cooler projects or interesting projects that you guys have worked on or are working on with clients in the AI arena?
I can go on for hours here, but Steve, why don't you go first? This is my favorite.
I love hearing this stuff.
Go ahead, Danny. Take the run. Take the run.
So, I mean, I mentioned the water loss. That was something that we really were excited to go, to discover. Like I said, we were doing a data assessment, put together the OT and the CRM data, and we're able to identify that. And then we've been able to extrapolate that out over a bunch of other use cases where we're talking about time vector analysis. It's really cool, really neat. It works from everything from water to syrup. It doesn't matter. Electricity, pipes, anything that moves, even logistics. We're starting to adapt it now into logistical frameworks for customers. Cool stuff. Love that. Where I'm finding that it's a lot of fun. We're working with organizations around service. Think about airplane repair, car repair, any kind of project where you have inventory, you have technicians, you have time in a bay or tools that need to be utilized in order to be able to do that, and figuring out efficiency around that. So we make sure that we're not scheduling, Tanya, you have, this amazing Lamborghini. We love it, but I can't get the part for 6 weeks. And once I put it up on the lift and I take this piece apart, I can't put it back together until I get there. So I'm locking up a bay, making sure that we're not doing that, and then hiring the right technician into it so that we're most efficient in terms of the turnover. That's a really cool project for a lot of customers. We're doing that.
I'll share with you this other question too. I am in an AI mastermind, just for founders to learn how to, and really just to give us different ideas for implementing AI in the business. And one of my favorite questions in that group that they ask every time we meet is, what is the weirdest way you're using AI, or the client we're using AI right now?
I can only imagine where that could go.
I don't know if I want to go down that path.
Yeah, it's Friday afternoon too. Come on, Don. It was one of the things I'll give you one more, and then Steve will share off. One of the things that we're working on is with municipalities, right, who have so many policies and procedures. And and I live in Miami Beach, so we speak 15 languages down here, right, natively for everybody. But all those individuals are trying to interact with the city for things like permitting, getting access and assistance. That doesn't work terribly well within our organization, within our constituency here, within the population. So by turning out a self-help portal that it doesn't care what language you speak, right, and it works with the natural language model, and it goes against all my policies and procedures, and I don't allow it to hallucinate, can actually return you results and even help you create the documents in the process. Makes things so much easier for everybody involved. So that's another use case that's a lot of fun that we're working on right now for public institutions.
There's so many. Some of the ones that I find to be really exciting are those where we're working manufacturing facilities and are trying to address quality control. And you're working with an audience that could be 10 machines, could be 1,000 machines. And you're actually being able to use vision systems and the like to identify quality control issues, improve performance. It's metallurgy type things where they kind of take a look at, well, what are the components? Do you have the components? How does it impact supply chain? So there's so many different ways and so many exciting avenues to go down. And the problem there is that gets away from the simplicity part of AI and gets more into the complex. But when you talk about what are some of the interesting things that you're looking at, that's we've done some work with some large manufacturers that work on turbines, airline turbines, and they actually use the technology to determine how the particular fan blades work and when they break down and how do they do maintenance on fan blades without having to take them apart. So there's so many different ways to leverage it. And it's really, how creative can you be? What do you want to achieve? Let's figure out how we do it.
Yeah. fascinating and exciting. And I can only imagine what a year from now or 2 years from now look like. So where do you think this is headed? What do you think the world will look like with AI 12, 24, 36 months down the line?
Well, I'm hoping that it's at the Jetsons.
I think that's better than the Flintstones.
I'm sorry. I'm dating myself, right? I'm dating myself there, but I don't know if I want that robot person running around doing everything in the house, but it's
I could go for Rosie, quite frankly. I'm okay with Rosie.
Okay. Maybe the little spaceship, the aerial spaceship that takes us around. But it's an open field.
Yeah.
AI, there's so many potential ways to leverage it. And we're seeing every day how the large OEMs are looking at it, how the NVIDIAs of the world are looking at it and saying, it's not X, it's all these 10 different things. And where do you want to go with it? So honestly, I'm excited to see where it goes as anybody else.
Yeah, I am too. And I find that the space between like AI and humans is a really interesting space to talk about too, because I find just even my own interactions with AI is changing me. It's like somehow evolving me. And I could see how, as businesses implement different AI initiatives and find different ways to leverage AI, it's just going to open the door for more and more creativity, for more and new and different ways to utilize AI. So I find that aspect really fascinating.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we'll see, I think you're going to see very different uses for your personal life and your business, right? So personal, I think you're going to see that the, digital assistant, the AI butler, however you want to look at it, not a digital human, but really a butler, an assistant to kind of help you out with a lot of things. That's really powerful for most people and helps hopefully take away some of the noise without necessarily putting Rosie in Steve's house. I'm all for Rosie, by the way. I'll take Rosie.
I want a Rosie.
Yeah, I'm all about Rosie, so I'll take that. But I think within the business, we're going to see a lot of focus on less on the shiny object and more on the practical. So we're going to start to see people back down from, there's still going to be some cool gee whiz things, right? We're going to figure out confidential compute, end-to-end encryption. All that stuff is fun. It's great. I'm having a ball working with my customers on that. But I think we're going to find a lot of the basic stuff actually being where we get back to, because it makes sense. It yields the most benefit for the organization, to Steve's point, without getting overly complex.
Yeah.
Give me self-help in natural language. Because if I move into a new organization, I don't know the nomenclature. Give me the ability to figure out everything I need to go find within the organization. So I'm not sitting around twiddling my thumbs or spending 60% of my day looking for a document that is right there. I'm just not able to ask for it in the word that everybody else does.
Yeah.
And one that gives me search to find all the things that I can't find on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. I've read this, recently, and I was sharing it with somebody the other day. It used to be that we read as humans about 5,000 words a day. And most of that was succinct, right? We read it. Now we read 20,000 words a day across 100,000 screens, right? So we're pulling in so much information. To try to go back and find anything is almost impossible. AI can help us with that. Mm-hmm. And then the basics of like document creation or how we interact to share that information out. I think that's where we're going to see a lot of focus over the next 12 to 24 months. Mm-hmm. And that should give us the foundations to go build some of these other things. But that's really helpful for people, right? You think about it, if we all on average spend 20% of our day working to try and find information that's already curated within our organization, we're losing 1 day a week.
Yeah.
Or 1 out of 5 people, or 20% of our organization. If we can return that, think about what a company can do with even a fraction of that coming back to them. That's powerful. So I think those kinds of simple results are where we're going to see, to Steve's point, simpler is better. It gives back a lot for the organization very quickly, and then we'll build on top of it. There will be some cool gee whiz pie in the sky stuff happening at the same time. But I think a lot of it will be that base foundation piece that you can get with some really cool tools. And, right now, I think that's
excited about right now with AI.
Yeah. One other thing I think we're going to see too is the AI journey that all the businesses are on. They're going to be beyond that first or second step. They're going to be implementing. They're going to be leveraging it and learning and it's going to be a really big learning curve. But that learning, I think, is going to help organizations and businesses become so much more efficient and effective, and hopefully more productive over the coming years.
Mm-hmm.
And secure.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
AI security, that's a whole other topic, kind of.
Yeah, you'll have to come back and talk about that one. So I'd love for you to just share, about Advizex. What does Advizex do? How do you help companies in their AI journey?
Sure. Yeah, Steve, if you're okay, I'll jump in on that a little
Please
bit.
Do. Go ahead, Dan.
Fill in the color. So, Advizex at its core is a 50-year-old VAR. So we've been around for a long time. Really proud to say we have a 98% retention rate of our customers. So we've got customers who have been with us for decades and decades and decades. So yeah, it's really neat, right? So we do what you would expect a reseller to do, a value-added reseller to do. We have the ability to, get the products, put together the solutions. We have the services to help implement them. What makes us a little bit more unique, and one of the things that we really like about the organization, and this is where Steve and I are kind of pioneering some things for Advizex, is we have a number of sister organizations. So we have a team of data scientists sitting in Leeds, UK, 50, 60 people sitting over there, and that's what they do, bleeding edge AI stuff. And we can leverage and tap those guys. I have a team in Canada that focuses in on visibility across the network. And so I have these security teams, and I have the ability to operate in local currency in over 200 countries. We have all these capabilities with our sister organizations that allows us to pull the best of not our organization, but our sister organizations and our capabilities together with our manufacturing partners to produce some really great results for customers. And we don't have very many limitations as the way it's set up. It's a really unique organization from that perspective. It also gives us a perspective into the AI journey that not a lot of other companies have, just because we've touched on some things that are unique with our sister organizations, just in terms of what the depth is that they've been able to go with their customers in their specific areas of expertise. So it's a neat place. It's a really neat place.
Another couple of key areas and things that are really exciting is that the 50-year-old organization that's been recognized so many times through CRN and all these other organizations, but we're very creative in the way we go about the business. And we have some models that are really strategic. So when we're dealing with a lot of the OEMs and we're faced with a difficult financial approach to a client, we've got the ability in-house to drive consumption models for IT and for technology that the OEMs can't do. So a lot of times they'll come to us and say, we've got an opportunity and it's a great client opportunity and we just can't figure out how to get to the financials. So we'll work to Danny's point with one of our organizations to actually come in and create a consumption model or a really strategic financial approach to delivering the solutions. And then we've got the services organization behind us that is extremely capable of delivering these AI solutions as well as across any of the typical VAR solutions. So we're really fortunate to have a great team across multiple areas that we can support our customers with.
And leadership that says first, what's the right thing to go do for the customer?
Yeah.
Then just go do it, right? But that's never a question. It's wonderful. I talk to our CEO on a regular basis, and the answer is always, what do you think is the right thing to do? This. Good, go. Right? I never get pushback from him, which is terrific on that.
That's why we love working with Advizex too, because, we are really in service to the IT leader. And I can't say that all tech companies are and all VARs are, but we love working with you guys because if we have an IT leader who has a need or an inquiry, you guys always step in and help solve for that. So we love working.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We're pleased to support you in the ongoing efforts.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you both for being here. This was really, I feel like it was packed with real actionable insight, which is what we always want to provide. And I'd love for you to come back and talk about AI security. I think that's a whole nother topic that we probably need to talk about. So yeah. We're hearing AI all the time, but I would imagine that just opens a whole can of worms when it comes to the security side.
Yeah,
Pandora's box.
We're working on not to digress, but we're working on an attestation framework using confidential compute to be able to validate that their inference modeling is actually yielding the results that they're being claimed, right? And it is some crazy heady stuff. We've actually had NVIDIA's developers of confidential compute calling our team now for support on that, because we've moved pretty far out into the ether on that space. But what we're going to yield from that will be really practical for critical infrastructure providers, for financial institutions, and for those that security is such a critical concern. So I'm excited to get there, but I'll tell you, Tanya, I think I'm spending more time learning, just like reading to catch up with the conversations that are going on between my technical teams, just so I have a clue as to what it is they're talking about half the time. It's a lot of fun.
I bet it's a lot too. I bet it's a lot to digest.
It's nuts. Yeah, it's nuts.
And a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I really appreciate you both being here. And if you're listening and feeling the pressure to bring AI into your organization, but also feeling stuck, you're not alone. This conversation is your proof. It's not just a tech problem. It's a people problem, a communication problem, a buy-in problem. And it's one we can solve together. So you can connect with Danny and Steve at Advizex and the team at Advizex by heading to technologymatch.com. Just type in Advizex AI in the search bar and you'll find their solution landing page. Also, Advizex maintains a unique AI email address dedicated to customers and those looking for information related to AI and accelerated compute. That email is ai@advizex.com, ai@advizex, advizex.com. They stay on top of this email, so you can request a conversation by emailing them there. Where else can people find you, Danny and Steven?
Come to Miami. Come see me.
Yeah, there you go.
Feel free to look us up on LinkedIn. You know, as you said, the email address is off the webpage, but just reach out to Advizex. They'll find us, and we'll be happy to engage. We've got a great team of people here. We're happy to help out in any way we can.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I will link both of your LinkedIn addresses in the show notes, as well as this email address and your landing page in our marketplace. But thank you. Thanks so much.